Those that don't know me, my name's Tim Marrion. I hosted the keynotes this morning. I lead on our children, young people and families work at Active Cornwall. You're probably asking why are Active Cornwall talking to me about the primary PE school sport premium. Well, we've got a remit from central government to one, support schools around the premium, and two, to measure the impact of the premium in Cornwall. So when all of you schools do your reporting at the end of the school year, we spend the summer holidays going through every school's website, downloading your reports, and then producing a summary on the impact of the premium across Cornwall. So that's our remit. That's why we're delivering this workshop today. And that sits in the portfolio that I lead on at Active Cornwall and lead on this piece of work. So the bit about supporting you also is really good. We're not just there to measure the impact. Any questions, any concerns around the premium, please do get in touch with us and I'll share my email address at the end. So welcome to the next hour to this workshop. The session is being recorded. So if you do want to share your camera, that is appreciated. There's not many of us in this workshop. If you did want to share your camera, fine. If you don't, because it's recorded, I totally get it, not a problem. Hopefully there'll be some discussion, so please do unmute yourself and please do contribute towards the chat. Again, there's no right or wrong answers. Lots of the questions I'm going to ask is what's worked for you. So if it's worked for you, it's not right or wrong. So really appreciate other people kind of contributing. So it's not just my voice for today as we go through. I'll be monitoring the chat function. So if you don't want to talk, just put it in the chat. And then I'll try and answer the question from the chat as well, kind of moving forward. And then there'll be time for any questions that people felt they've not asked, that's not been covered or they want to ask at the end, moving on. Okay, so we'll make a start really. And I think it's just worth saying from the very get-go really about in the last couple of weeks, we've seen some new guidance and some new conditions released from the government around the premium. So there's two links on there. If you've not had the opportunity to look at that guidance or conditions, then please do so. It hasn't changed a great deal. It talks about some of the deadlines, but I'm going to go through that later. Apart from that, it's not changed a great deal from the years before. But if you're new to the premium, it's definitely worth looking at that guidance and those conditions that are published on the government website moving forward. It still talks about the 5 indicators and these indicators which are there on your screen. To me, important words in the title. The premium is about additional and sustainable improvements. The PE and premium should not be used to deliver your core PE curriculum. It should be used for targeted interventions that are additional and sustainable improvements. So please bear that in mind. And it is against those 5 indicators. Engagement of all pupils in regular physical activity. So that is towards the Active 60 that I touched on earlier this morning, and how children undertake 30 minutes per day within your school. It is talking about whole school improvement, so how you raise the profile of PE in school sport and how you change that culture of PE in school sport. Really important. We talk about where is PE in school sport positioned in your school. The staff, the people, how important is it we invest in those people that we've got and their confidence and knowledge to deliver, and we'll talk about that a bit later. Broader experience of range of sports and activities. And all pupils, how that's offered to all pupils. And then finally, competition and competitive school sport is still really, really important moving forward. Today, I'm going to share with you what we call 7 top tips and 7 top tips that have been put together by Active Partnerships, AFP and the Youth Sport Trust around 7 top tips for you to spend any underspend from last year and your premium for this year. But just before we do that, have a read of that question and I'll give you a minute to think about it. And then put it in the chat or unmute your microphone and let us know. It's just good to hear from you guys. What do you think is the single best use of the premium you feel your school has made to make additional and sustainable improvements? Have a minute to think about it, then any comments in the chat, and then we can open up a bit of a chat, a bit of a discussion would be nice. Go on, somebody put something in the chat there. Anyone feel confident? Great. Okay, no problems if someone's mic doesn't work. Yeah, put it in there. That's great. CPD. So CPD's come up quite a lot of bit. Workshops and resources. CPD for staff, sports coaches, really good. Real PE, so investing in a high quality scheme of work for your school. Any other comments in there? Anybody want to unmute and discuss and say something they've done? Key stage 1 swimming, that's really good. So swimming early days, additional swimming early. So using inspiring facilities, say like the gymnastics centre from James Good, and Arena. Yeah, Arena have got a great, and they're going to come up quite a bit in this because Arena's offers really good around a scheme of work. They're in Cornwall as well. They can give you that support. I'll touch on them a little bit later around a number of different offers that they've got. It's great to see swimming coming up. We're going to touch quite a bit around that. A bit of CrossFit for Key Stage 2, good. So again, CrossFit's really good. So that looks at that different offer, and we're going to touch that about later. So being innovative in what our offer is, not just offering those traditional sports. Some really good points in there, and others can pick up that within that, and new sports for Year 6. Good to see. Thank you very much for that. That's good for us to reflect on that and see that in the chat and to share with colleagues. Great to see CPD coming up. To me, the more about CPD, resources, real PE, they're what I call where you're investing in yourself rather than investing for external people to come in. If the premium doesn't continue, we need to make sure we use this year to really use every bit of it to invest in yourself and that workforce that you've got within your school. And I'll touch on that a little bit later as well. I'll pick up that question around premium for swimming, Sarah. So we'll get to that question later. And it's great to see new sports put in there for Year 6. Again, we'll touch on that. I will cover that later, Sarah. If you don't think I have, then just please ask it at the end. Okay, so active partnerships. I work at Active Cornwall. We've got one of us in every county. I sit on a group representing the Southwest, where we came together with Dan, got a name check earlier from Yorkshire Sport, and Dan led us together across the region to come up with our top tips for spend of the premium this year, including underspend from last year. You've got 7 images there in front of you, and I'll just work my way across them to show you which ones they are, because it really is now more important than ever. We look to instill good behaviours to be active throughout the day and use the premium in order to do that. And we need to be impactful. Jane from Sport England said, if we want this premium to continue, we need to make sure we can measure the impact of our investment. Really, really important. And for us, we feel there's 7 ways that can really help you be more effective with the use of the premium this year, and especially with where we are. So number 1, top left, is invest it in something that's sustainable and sustainability for your school. So invest it in sustainability, and I'll touch on more about that in detail going forward. In the middle at the top, whole school improvement. So how is it really used to improve your whole school and have that whole school approach? Really important as we look to move forward this year. Top right, active travel. Active travel comes up a number of times, and how you use the premium to invest in active travel. Active travel is important with the climate action for change for schools pre-COVID. Even more important now with congestion, parents congregating on the school gates, not wanting to use public transport, all of that, why we need to look at active travel more so nowadays. Below that, innovation. So how are we really innovative this year? It's great to see new sports for Year 6. I saw that comment came up in the chat, and those areas as well. We need to make sure that that's really, really important as well moving forward. And we're just trying different things to engage with that audience. The children laying down on the grass there, that's about having an outdoor learning, having an approach to outdoor learning. More so than ever, we need to be outside than inside at the moment. So really using it for outdoor learning. Swimming sits in the middle. So we're going to talk about that in detail later. And massively with a county surrounded by the coast, how we use swimming. And probably, I've left it till last, but probably the number 1 for me is high quality, and it's high quality PE provision. It's the PE premium, and we need to make sure that we use the premium to have high quality PE provision. So it's great to see investment in Arena, great to see investment in real PE and those schemes of work, making sure that we've got that really high quality PE provision. So number 1 was sustainability. Sustainability here it's very difficult at the moment to bring in external providers to support PE lessons and sports clubs. So to us, it's absolutely paramount that the existing staff you've got are qualified, competent, and confident to deliver high quality PE. Ultimately, what we're saying is invest in your own staff, and look for CPD opportunities linked to physical education delivery, whole school physical activity learning strategies, or outdoor learning initiatives. For us, it's absolutely fine investing in sports specific courses. But what we talk about here is how do we really address staff motivations and relationships with physical activity rather than just those traditional sports. So yes, I get how some swimming teaching is required. I get how some handball training is required and can have huge benefits in the confidence and competence of that teacher to deliver that. But how do we address those motivations and relationships with physical activity, and what CPD is there available that will do that rather than those sport specific areas? Any comments on what I've just said? I'm just going to have a look in the chat what we've got here. There's some comments around swimming. I'll pick that up later. Any comments around the sustainability from what I've just said there about using it for CPD opportunities? Any good examples of CPD models that schools have used? Agree with that. Unmotivated and negative relationships with PE. That is huge. And what I'll talk later about the AFP and the level 5 and 6 physical education qualifications. So we look wider to address those motivations and relationships with physical activity. We'll cover the spend big. I'll touch on some of that later. Feel free, if I'm missing things on the chat, to unmute your mic and come in. Does anybody want to talk about anything here to do with the sustainability element? Some great CPD opportunities to real PE, and if you're going to invest in schemes of work, to me, the better schemes of work come with a CPD for all staff that will address those motivations. Real PE definitely does. So does some of the arena models as well. So don't just invest in the purely the lesson plans, if you want to call them. Make sure there's some CPD that goes with it, and they should be able to deliver that virtually now. Okay. So number 2 is this whole school improvement. The impact of physical activity on a wide range of school priorities is well researched, and we talked earlier about how the argument, so the strong argument we've got to reposition PE in school sport at the moment is well done. How it can improve concentration, behaviour, attainment. The sports premium grant should massively link to that, and resource that can be a driver for whole school improvement. The other bit around whole school they talk about is cross-curricular. So where you use it to embed physical activity with active learning approaches, active maths, active phonics, cross-curricular orienteering, for example. So consider those opportunities to use your premium across the whole school. And this is where we talk about the culture. So where we can use it to change the culture of a whole school. It's not just really good at year 2 because you're year 2 teacher, but make sure it's good at year 2 and year 4. So how do we use it to work across that whole culture and change the whole culture within the whole school moving forward? Any comments on that whole school improvement? Anybody feel where they've done it really well across the whole school? I wanted to share an example. Please unmute your mic if you'd like to. There's only a few of us on the call. You don't want to hear my voice purely for the next 40 minutes. James, are you coming to unmute your mic and talk a bit your active English? I think that'd be great.
Yeah, hi. So we introduced active English across our school and another school where we share the same executive head, and obviously, really good ways to reintroduce like your SPAG sessions in schools, but also to get the children out and active doing it, and they seem to really enjoy that. But also our levels of spellings have gone up in school as well.
That's really good. So we talk about attainment levels has been raised there on the back of the premium, which is a great measure of impact. It's things like that that are absolutely crucial in the reporting. again about the future of this investment. So anything that can be done across the whole school, across other subjects, is great evidence. So good example. James, who do you use there? Did you invest in a system, in a scheme of work for Active English, or?
So yeah, the scheme is Active English, which was identified by another colleague who works in the other school. He's also the PE coordinator on today on another course somewhere, but we were quite keen to improve the level of the literacy in schools anyway, but also to engage children through the use of PE. Because we used to do active maths as well.
Yeah.
But we wanted to engage the literacy side of it.
Perfect.
And we also use real PE across both schools.
Yeah. So the active maths and active English are just two resources which you can get out there, which are great, really. But it's how you get that and then get that embedded across the whole school. So active English is taught in year 2 and year 4, as I said.
And we also had we had a trainer come down to deliver that as well. So we had the opportunity to ask questions and how we could embed it in lessons and how to actually use the resource as well.
Great.
I just seen the message from Kate. We're not currently using active maths at the moment because our priority was on active literacy. But hopefully we'll go back to that next year.
Great, and good to see Chris is commenting there about lunchtime activity as well. So again, lunchtime activity for the whole school, even more so now with the confused world, some of the lack of clarity around whether you can do after school provision, but real opportunity, and we hope schools will really deliver that lunchtime provision now to encourage activity levels at lunchtime, because with no after school and no community provision allowed to take place, that lunchtime provision is absolutely crucial for the next 4-week period. So thanks, Chris, for contributing that in the chat as well. And agreed, yeah, the planning that comes from Arena to improve that staff motivation is good as well. I touched on that as well. The training that comes with Real PE and Arena is some great offers there that they link in, and I'll touch on that a little bit more later. So as well, that other comment around staff CPD, I do really urge that around staff CPD. It's when we talk staff CPD, we tend to go right down to the sports specific route, which I get is really important. But if that individual has no relationship with PE, maybe an NQT or something like that, didn't go through much physical education training, in my view, you can give them all of the sports specific CPD in the world. But if they haven't got a relationship and a motivation and belief of physical education, then they're going to struggle to hit around those physical literacy areas and that enjoyment element. So really do look to invest in that area. Number 3, I'm going to keep trying to monitor the chat as we go through. If I do miss anything, please do let me know. Chris, I'll bring you up around the type of activities for lunchtime, and you can talk about that when we just get to the innovation bit. Is that okay? I think that'd be really good. Outdoor learning comes in at number 3 of one of our top tips. And to me, really, just because of where we're at currently, in needing to use the outdoor more than the indoor. There's also a load of evidence out there about how well-being and mental health is fast becoming a significant issue in primary schools, and the research that shows how exposure to the natural environment can have a positive effect. So where do we look at our physical environment we've got in the school? How do we create a playground that is stimulating, encourages children to move frequently, introduce all weather equipment that children can interact with in different ways, and build their physical literacy? So physical literacy, we talk about competence, confidence, knowledge, understanding, and enjoyment. And enjoyment being the most important element of that. So where do we look at our outdoor physical environment that really focuses on enjoyment for children to be active? And that's where we link that in again here. And again, I also link into this outdoor learning. How do we invest in CPD that builds confidence in staff to deliver outdoor lessons, or even forest school activities? Again, Arena have got a great outdoor program and some training that comes with that. How do we use that to invest in CPDs for that? CPD areas around outdoor learning as well. Commenting here about when the whole school are out at the same time, must be kept within the areas of bubbles. Agreed. With the situation where we are now, it is a challenge with the space we've got. How do we be creative with that space? How do we get examples from other schools, how we split those bubbles up to still make sure that they've got that space to be active? How do we stagger that outdoor time as well? Or do we get them outdoor for majority of the time we can at our schools? Especially some of the rural schools we've got in Cornwall, small playgrounds, small fields and outdoor space. I'm not saying any of this is easy. It can be very difficult there. And again, if you speak to the training with Arena, do look at that around the outdoor curriculum as well, how that links in. Anything else there around outdoor environment? Playground markings normally comes up all the time. Agree, the premium shouldn't be used for capital expenditure, but it is very much used. Playground markings tend to come inside of that, and we tend to look around how we may use the investment for playground markings. I don't know if playground markings then comes in this conversation we've got with Matt's, that it could come into a too high remit and therefore you can't spend that amount of money. Did anybody want to open the microphone and just share that and see if we can discuss that a little bit?
Hi, it's Vicky from Crowan.
Hi, Vicky.
Yeah, we had a problem with this because we wanted new gymnastic wall climbing equipment to update and make it more challenging for our Key Stage 1 group, but we weren't allowed to spend over £2,000 on one piece of equipment. And no matter what I tried, all I was told was just pick something cheaper. Well, that's not really sustainable. When you're looking for something really sustainable that's going to last for years and years and years, that's not really the best way to go about it. But no matter what we did, our finance department would not let us spend over £2,000, which makes it really difficult when you want to do projects improving the outside area and doing orienteering courses and all those kind of things, because the costs just go over. So when we found it really hard to clarify whether this was a trust rule or was this a sports funding rule. But it turns out, I think it's just our trust rule.
Yeah, I agree with Vicky there, Tim. I've had the same problem with our trust, part of the same trust, where I bought some new equipment for the sustainability of our field, and I was told it had to go on capital.
Oh, they told you the equipment was capital, so therefore, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
so we had.
Do you mind me asking?
Sorry, what was that, Tim?
What trust is this? Do you mind me asking?
Southerly Point Cooperative Trust. So quite a big one.
Yeah, I know Southerly Point. Yeah, Sean, is that Sean Pinhay? Is that who you speak to? There?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I know Sean. So it's definitely not. It's definitely not a premium rule that you can't spend those amounts of money. It's a premium condition that you don't spend it on capital. So if he's saying, but a piece of equipment shouldn't count as capital, it's something that I can pick up and have conversations with trusts. So it's not the first time we've heard this.
Yeah, I think we were told, because again with the gym equipment, because it was attached to the wall, it came under that under that different type of funding.
Yeah, that's what we were told as well, Vicky.
Yeah, so if the capital, someone's asked about capital, every school should have a capitalisation policy. So what counts as capital expenditure? And you get different kinds of expenditure: capital expenditure, revenue expenditure. So capital being on fixed assets, which it tends to be, but most. So if schools wanted to buy a load of iPads, sometimes IT counts as capital expenditure. And playground markings doesn't. It's not always a certain threshold of a certain amount of money. So if it was a fixed piece of equipment, then I could understand how the school would think that that's a capital expenditure. So therefore, Sean would say that that can't be used for the premium, and he would be correct. My question probably would be is how you use other school investment that could be used for the premium to free up that money to be used for capital, if that makes sense. But you'd have to be creative in moving around expenditure there in order to get what you want. So it's not the question of the amount there, because I thought it was a question of the amount, that they wouldn't buy large bits. That's more the condition of the money, which it is, that you can't use it for capital expenditure.
No, but it did come down to the money as well, though, because even when we got past the idea, well, it's a piece of gymnastics, and they agreed, then I still wasn't allowed something over £2,000 for one item. So we were still back. I mean, like, a lot of the time I've looked at doing orienteering courses around the school, but again, those are fixed things that cost above that £2,000. So when you've had the sports premium money for quite a number of years now, and you're looking to do really big projects with it, it just makes it incredibly difficult to spend the money on really, really worthwhile projects.
Yeah, I agree. That would be the MAT's procurement policy. I know, Sean. I'm more than happy to have a conversation with Sean, because and I won't mention any school. I can just say
that would be great.
I can definitely do that. I've made a note of it, and I can speak to him, because they should be able to get around that. Now, if if we say £2,000, as long as you get 3 quotes and you go through the right procurement process, then it should still be able to do it, and other schools do it. So I can share examples that other schools have done it, which may give him some confidence.
Yes, please, Sean. Yes, because at my school, Tim, I did have the 3 quotes, and I was still told that it had to come out of capital, because I had an AstroTurf pitch fitted, outdoor gym equipment, and a trim trail for the children to use.
Yeah, but that comes back to, again, that all those 3 things could be classed as capital expenditure. They're all fixed assets. Yeah. So therefore that would be a condition for the premium.
Okay.
So he is right in saying that we can't use it from that. My argument was purely it shouldn't just be about an amount threshold.
Okay.
If it's capital, it can't be used. Question coming here around the playground markings. Playground markings are not classed as capital expenditure, and there's lots of examples where schools have used playgrounds markings. The government website, the 2 links I shared with you earlier, do give playground markings as good examples of the use of money. So please do look at playground markings, which are not classed as capital. It's very hard for me to say what's capital and what's not capital, because it does come down to the individual school's capitalisation policy. So I've had some schools being able to buy IT and tech solutions, and other schools have said that IT and tech comes into our capital. So I'm very hesitant to sit and go, that is, that isn't. If you've got schools which have got real issues, the only person or the only organisation that is monitoring your spend is Active Cornwall, is us. The government are not going in and monitoring that spend as we're going from there. So if they want to have a conversation with us, we can say that, and then you can even put in it that it was agreed with your active partnership if anyone challenges it. And Ofsted are not going to come in and go into detail about what you spent your premium on. They're going to more look against the 5 indicators than the actual level of detail of each individual spend. I hope that helps. And I hope I've not put my neck on the line, but maybe I have, but there we go. So outdoor environment, the physical environment where we are, comes in at number 3. Number 4, active travel. I can't stress the importance of active travel at the moment. I talked earlier about it's the PE premium. It should be used for high quality PE. So bear that in mind as number 1. But then to me, active travel sits very closely about how you use your premium to invest in cycle training for pupils across the school, make active travel a really easy option for families, ensuring the school grounds are accessible. I agree, we talked about space on the playgrounds, but how do you enable school bubbles to use their scooters at a playtime or an active lesson? How do we create that environment, like the opening video we watched this morning around that little chalk racetrack on that Gentleman's Drive? Look to research and invest in certain schemes. There's a scheme out there called Mode Shift Stars that will help you write a sustainable active travel plan. If you register as a Cornwall school, you'll get somebody will come and support you. We've signed up as the local authority around Mode Shift Stars and want more schools to register with Mode Shift Stars in Cornwall, so we could work with you around there. I think it's capital to use your money for bike storage. Again, that'll depend on your own school, so you shouldn't be really using your premium to invest in bike storage. But it does talk about if you have inspiring facilities and secure facilities to store bikes and scooters, more kids will cycle and bike to school. We heard from Jane earlier about how important the family is. So fitting activity into daily routines, that's active travel. So that's the journey to and from school. So there's lots of things for me about how active travel is really important. It was important pre-COVID when we had the huge, and we still have, the climate emergency and climate action change for school, lack of congestion at the school gate. But now we've got COVID, we don't want the congregation at the school gate. We want to encourage as much active travel as we can. And I think it's really important. Lack of public transport, again, no confidence in public transport. But I do get active travel is not for everybody. We've got very rural schools in Cornwall, the small windy roads, lack of pavement infrastructure, cycle routes. So I do get it's not for everybody. mode shift work to create walking and cycling bubbles and things like that. We're working with Sustrans and Cornwall Council around the great toolkit on the Cornwall Council website if you've not seen that. But use your premium to invest in this and to invest in maybe more cycle training. Only 50% of children in Cornwall leave primary school having done the level 2 bikeability training. So can you increase more children in your school to go through that, which I'm sure will give the confidence of parents to allow their kids to cycle more to school as well. So there's quite a few things there around active travel. There's also the active travel champion. We'd love every school to nominate an active travel champion in their school. They would get one-to-one support to look through an active travel plan, working with Mode Shift and Sustrans. So please do, it says make a pledge, but just nominate an active travel champion and we'll do that together as we go through. Couple of questions around active travel. If anyone else has got any questions, please unmute the mic, but I'll just pick up the two in the chat. A scooter lane with our extra funding carried over from last year. I think that's really great. We've seen some great uses of equipment, letting kids take equipment home. Don't forget the premium should be targeted. So if that loan is more of a scooter to a child that you know is not getting their levels of physical activity, you don't need to give a loan to scooter to everybody. You could target certain children. Here's a loan of a scooter for you to use. Really good use of the premium. How do we overcome families all travelling together when we currently have a staggered start finish to eliminate all families together? Is that across different year groups, Sarah? Do you want to, are you happy to unmute your mic and just expand a little bit more on that?
Hi there. Yeah, it's just so the whole school isn't arriving at the same time. We have a staggered start and finish, but it's just that worry if they're all having a bike ride and having a chat all, along the paths and the roads before they get to school.
Yeah, I can see that. The idea of active travel is to try and come away from that congestion at the school gate and where it is, and even with the staggered starts, everybody's still turning up at the same time. So I've got no real direct response to that. I think that's just about where you may be, how you have schemes to reward children that cycle to school. And therefore, if they get there for their certain time, you can reward them more. You can use the premium to reward children as well for use of active travel and coming to school. So that may help to stagger when they travel and don't all travel together.
I was thinking more of a journey, because if there isn't many paths for them to be safe on their bikes and scooters, is that going to be a lot of families and bubbles all mixing?
Yeah, I missed the start of that question, but I think it was about infrastructure and lack of pavements and routes to school. Safer routes to school, is that right?
Yeah, so there might be many ways into school, but in terms of safety, it might mean that all the children have to travel the same way. So it's just at the back of my mind, if we're still able to keep all the different bubbles of children all separate, if they're all just going to meet up on their way to school when we're trying to bring them in smaller groups.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Safer routes to school is a huge challenge. If you work through the mode shift, it could flag up safer routes to school, and then that gets flagged up with Cornwall Council. So we are seeing some infrastructure changes in pavements and routes to school to make them more suitable for active travel. So that's one way you could look at that. Cornwall Council are investing heavily and getting a lot of government resource to look at infrastructure and how they support that. I suppose to me, the same thing, if they all got in the cars and drove to school, they would still all congregate outside the school at the same time. So it's just about... It's
looking quite well at the moment, but it's just if everyone, when it's a nice sunny day, everyone hops on their bike, and then it's just a lot of, we work so hard to keep all the classes separate, and then it's a big mass on the way.
Yeah, I'm not sure. As long as they know about the social distancing and that it's outdoors, it's a safer environment. I can see that though. It'd be a great problem to have, wouldn't it? So that we've got too many families and children getting on bikes. And we've had also questions around, well, actually then we can't do the bike storage is not good enough to socially distance. And if everybody turns up trying to put their bikes in there at the same time.
Yeah, but it'd be lovely to have everyone. That's the goal, everyone being active coming in, and especially with all their sports clubs closed, it's a nice family time all coming together. But it's just separating all the individual families.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I think it would be just good to give it a go and promote active travel, and can we invest other areas to keep spaces at schools. The transport and planning team in Cornwall Council are looking to invest in schools that have got bike storage issues or want some more temporary bike storage. So again, if that is a challenge and you want another bike storage at the other end, please get in touch, because there is investment out there to support these kind of programs. So if you're going to nominate an active travel champion, if you're going to register on Motorshift Stars and work towards an active travel plan, there is pots of capital money out there on top of the premium to look to support these programs. So please do look at those options. I don't know why this is not number one, really, because this is the big one for me. This should always be your priority when schools are planning their premium spend. It should be about high quality PE provision. We've talked about Arena, we talked about Real PE, high quality schemes of work and resources. In the last group, they talked about having really up to date, professional, smart resources which engage children to be physically active and to get a better experience of PE. And I think that's really, really important as we move forward. We've got the evidence tells us we've got more class teachers than ever delivering PE at the moment, because these external coaches and sports specific specialists are not visiting schools and working across bubbles. So it's a perfect time now to ensure that the staff at your school have that confidence and skills to deliver high quality physical education. So really look to invest in that as well. Things for me is the level 5 and level 6 qualification that you can get in PE. Look at the AFP website around that. Arena delivers some great courses on that as well. If we're looking at getting outdoors, investing in the OAA, so the outdoor adventurous activities qualification. So looking again at the different awards and the sport specific awards to make sure you've got that high quality provision moving forward as well. And outdoor PE is probably going to be the new normal. So that outdoor adventurous activities qualification is good as well. And you can look that up, and that would be really a great use of the premium. Any questions on that? Any more schemes of work or anything else people want to mention around high quality PE provision? No. Okay, so number 6 is innovation, and we talk about how we can be really innovative with the use of the premium at the moment and where we are. I think we talked earlier about the really strong argument that we've got, and how do we use this how do we use the times we're in now and use COVID, the landscape, as an opportunity to be innovative rather than restrict our provision. Using the premium as much as we can to be innovative really, really works. We saw some great lockdown, saw many of you guys being really innovative with how you plan and delivered PE online, how you came up with PE at home platforms. How do we do that now? How can we use the premium maybe to create an online platform on your website so that you engage with parents more and children so they can enjoy to be active together? A lot of evidence proves that if we can get the mum active, then we'll change the behaviour of the whole family. So really initiative to work with the mum of the household as well to engage them moving forward. To me, if we're going to be innovative, it might fail, and we need to not be worried that it doesn't have an impact on participation. It was unsuccessful. If we can evidence that we did the right thing, so we co-created it, we consulted with some children, we realised it was innovative, we went for it, but it didn't work. But this is the learning we got from it, and this is the learning we've captured. If you put that in your reporting, then that's absolutely fine. Don't be scared of using your premium for things that you think we're not sure if it's going to work, but if it does work, the benefits are going to be huge. So making sure we are innovative would be good. Chris, did you just want to come in around just I think that whole kind of lunchtime is really important at the moment, and what you're saying?
Yeah, sure. So we didn't do anything particularly innovative, I don't think, but we allocated an amount of funding to buying stunt scooters for an area of the playground that wasn't really suitable for other things. It was quite narrow between a building and a wall, but we bought about 30 scooters, and one of the parents built a ramp for us as well, and we had a pastoral support lead who was kind of supervising that area, and it kind of just drew typically inactive children and children who maybe struggled at playtimes to that space because they had something sort of semi-structured to do, rather than just the unstructured play that comes at lunchtimes. And it worked really, really well. We have kind of almost 2 sittings of lunch typically, and we probably have around 60 children a day engaging with kind of scooting up and down, constantly active for about 3/4 of an hour. It had a knock-on effect on behaviour, but also you noticed quite quickly that the scooters that we bought weren't as good as the scooters they started bringing in, because they started to bring in better scooters, and they were getting scooters for Christmas and birthday and things. And then that had a knock-on effect of active travel, because you had more children scooting to school. So then we had to build more scooter racking to accommodate the children's scooters. And we've also done similar with balance bikes and bikes. We've got quite a lot of, we've probably got about 20 balance bikes and 30 bikes, and they come out at lunchtimes as well when possible. It's difficult at the moment, but ordinarily they would come out as well. So just having different things as on offer at lunchtimes just increases the activity and has a knock-on effect on behaviour.
Thanks, Chris. What school, Chris, are you at?
Oswego in Truro. So it's a kind of it's a built-up area. We haven't got a lot of outdoor space, but the space they used is about 3 meters wide, but about 20 meters long, and there's a ramp in the middle of it. It's not a very big ramp, but it's surprising how appealing it is, and it appealed to the right kind of children, the children we wanted to be channeling at the time.
So, Chris, some questions, because I think some of the challenges for this are big, but how do you store all this equipment if you've not got much outdoor space? I think that's important.
Well, I built 2 scooter racks, and we had a scooter rack in a shed as well for the school scooters. So that wasn't an issue. We've got quite a few sheds basically in different pockets of space. So storage wasn't an issue. The issue we had was that actually the stunt scooters we bought were the entry level ones, and they kind of fell apart. So they lasted a year. They got absolutely caned by the children, and then I threw most of them away in the summer because they just weren't robust enough. So I think if anyone was considering buying scooters, don't necessarily buy the cheapest ones. Ours were about £35 each, but I think you need to spend 50 to 60 to get something of any quality. And you need to be aware of how serviceable they are, because some scooters you can't replace parts very easily, and the wheels regularly will wear if they're used on tarmac, and there's things like the bearings can go, the brakes can fail because they're just getting hours and hours of use, so you accelerate their decline. Yeah, we aren't actually, I know there's a question there, we're currently, children are using their own scooters and their own helmets, and actually even pre-COVID, children generally use their own helmets, because their own helmets they took greater care of. They're just their own scooters they took greater care of as well. So, but we'd have probably 30 to 40 children bringing scooters in every day. So it had a real impact on active travel, I would say. And children were asking their parents if they could scoot to school rather than drive to school, because they wanted to have their scooter in school at lunchtime.
Thanks, Chris. And it's important. That's why I asked you what school you're from, Chris. I know where you're from, but it's good that I think others know your school and where you're from. That's really good. A great example of where our school has embraced active travel and embraced scooters at playtime. And we've got a partnership with Micro Scooters. They're a little bit more expensive than some of the others, but they're good quality products. So again, if you are looking at buying a number of scooters, we've signed into a partnership with Micro Scooters where we've got some scooters we're looking to give away as well to schools linked to the active travel work. So again, registering for Mode Shift, that would trigger off to us, and then you'd get a micro scooter offer to school as well once you've registered for Mode Shift. We're just trying to link it all together. So if you write a sustainable active travel plan, you get an opportunity to get a discount from Micro Scooters, which are good quality scooters. And we talk about physical literacy. The number one element, the why children will be physically active, is enjoyment. how much fun do you think they on a ramp and scooters at playtime and wanting to be active? That sounds amazing. So thanks, Chris. I'm not saying others aren't also doing amazing stuff as well, but that's just great to hear. So really good. So that innovation element, we touched on that. To me, that feels a bit innovative. It feels like it's the easy option to look at the health and safety aspect and say we can't deliver that, when maybe some of the greater impact is when we kind of challenge some of the norm around health and safety and what we should be doing to engage with children and the knock-on effect. So here you've got 30 or 40 scooters parked up in scooter storage is unbelievable. I know my child goes to a primary school, and when I go in there, there's 4 or 5 scooters in the storage area. That's it. Okay, so moving on to the last element, which is around swimming. So when this was first put together, there was only 6, and the 7th is what we've added here in Cornwall, and it has been picked up nationally. It's hard at the moment. Obviously, there's no swimming pools open, but even when they were, the easy option was to not go swimming when we could use the return to swim guidance to support the return of swimming to go back to school. So for the premium, you can use swimming for top up. So as long as you should deliver a program of swimming in your curriculum for your children. The challenge is there's no guidance on what the minimum you should be delivering. There's some recommendations, but the government don't put any minimum requirements of hours you need to deliver for each year group. So therefore, you can use the premium for top up, and the top up should be to get year 6 leavers to be able to swim 25 meters, to do a range of strokes and perform safe rescue as the 3 indicators. Currently in Cornwall, we've only got 79% of children leave year 6 that can swim 25 meters, and only 73% that can use a range of strokes, and 64% that can do safe rescue. I get, one of my pet frustrations is when I go into schools' impact reports and they report that they've got an underspend and they've only got 60% of kids that can swim 25 meters. And I think, why is this money not being used? Targeted intervention to give some real intensive swimming programs for those children to get them to 25 meters. It's meant to be targeted. It doesn't need to be for everybody. It could be for a certain small cohort to get them through to those areas moving forward. So swimming is a huge area where you can use the premium, and if it's for top up additional, it can be used for transport to get children to swimming pools as well. So hopefully the sooner we can get back swimming, and we can get the premium being used for swimming moving forward. Now, if it goes the other way, that you don't do any school swimming for this whole year, you still have to report on those 3 indicators and know the numbers of year 6 leavers that you've got that can swim 25 meters. But obviously you would put you didn't deliver swimming because of COVID, and COVID being an issue where you've had no impact there, but you still have to report those 3 areas. So does that answer those previous questions from swimming? That's around top up. Any other questions around swimming?
Can I just check, Tim? You said about, someone asked about Key Stage 1 swimming earlier. Is that considered, just because because it's not specified in the Key Stage 1 curriculum, that you could justify a spend in Key Stage 1?
So top up can be spent on any key stage, but it should be top up on what you would originally do within your curriculum. So if you don't do any, then it's all top up. Does that make sense?
Am I right in thinking that Key Stage swimming is only specified in the Key Stage 2 curriculum?
You are right in thinking that, but if you as a school do Key Stage 1 anyway, then you shouldn't use premium to pay for what you already currently do. Even though it's seen as addition to the curriculum, it's what you deliver as an individual school. This is where there's challenges around what is top up and what isn't top up. But you can use premium for reception top up. It doesn't just have to be for year 6. You may not do reception age swimming at your school. So you may say, do you know what, we're going to do some premium. We're going to use the premium to pay for our reception children to do 6 weeks of swimming, because we feel like at an early stage getting those fundamental skills, water safety, could lead to an increase at year 6. That would be fine. Happy, Chris?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you. Yeah, yeah.
Any other questions on swimming? Okay. So they're the 7 top tips that we're talking about at the moment around good ways to spend your premium at the moment, and some of them especially for Cornwall. Just to recap and to be really, really clear, schools must publish the amount of premium they've received, a full breakdown of how it is spent or will be spent, what impact it's had on participation attainment, how it's sustainable, and then those 3 swimming areas that we just talked about. I still find it unbelievable, and I get it was different last year with COVID and how the spend couldn't happen in the summer term, but only 63% of schools published a report in Cornwall. And of those 63% of schools, 72% of them were compliant. So it just shows when Jane from Sport England, the Director of Children and Young People, saying if we want this money to continue, we need to report the impact. Now, if what is that as we go from there? So if so that'd be 37% of schools are not even publishing a report in Cornwall, and that happens nationally. The government are not going to continue to invest in this area because they've got no idea on what impact it's having. So I just want to really emphasize, as you speak to colleagues, as you speak to people from other schools or where it works, please make sure we report and are compliant with those areas which are on the screen for how we've used this investment this year, because we want to make sure this continues for your schools going forward. You can't spend it, and these are the 3 areas they say you can't spend it on. We've touched on the last one quite a lot, but we shouldn't be using it to employ coaches or specialist teachers to cover PPA time, and it shouldn't be used to deliver the minimum requirements of your existing PE curriculum. So that kind of comes back to what you were saying, Chris, your existing PE curriculum. So if swimming is in your existing PE curriculum for Key Stage 1, then it shouldn't cover that. And then the capital bit, which I think we've covered, and I'm not going to go through again. Again, if anyone's not sure about that capital or has got business managers or anyone they want to speak to, please get in touch post this event. One of the big issues we have with schools not being compliant with the reporting is where they use their own template, and schools develop their own template to report on, which means probably, I'm going to say as much as 9 times out of 10, it means it doesn't cover all the areas. We saw this one this morning. We've also got a time to move one that you can download off our website. If you use our template or the national AFP template, then it's going to cover all the questions. Answer the questions, you're more likely going to be compliant with that moving forward. And to answer that question, it only has to be uploaded onto your website. We go into your website, we find them on your website and download them from there. So 2 deadlines on there are given by the government. The 31st of March, you have to report on any underspend and publish that on your website. And then by the last one, the 31st of July, you have to report on the whole year's spend and the underspend, so both together by the 31st of July. We always offer a deadline in the middle, which is that 9th of July, an optional Cornwall deadline. So if you want to email that through to us, that one's not published on your website. The 9th of July, you have to physically email it through to us, and then we will give you some constructive feedback going from there, and then being able to enable you to improve your reporting for the end of year. So we turn that around in a week from the 9th of July, and then you can improve your reporting by the end of July. So again, that's optional. You have to email it into us, and all of this is going to be put out through a time to move bulletin, but my email address is at the end. You can send it through to me, and we go from there. Chris, very difficult question to answer around underspends from this year. I doubt it. We're being asked loads around the need to spend all underspend from year 1 by the 31st, from last year, sorry, by the 31st of March, and needing to get to the end of this year. We've been chasing an early response to whether the premium is going to continue next year or not. I would sooner know now that they're not going to continue it than wait and be told later. But I would get to the question of be planning not to have any underspend at the end of this year. Would be what the advice we're given to tell schools. That doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to, but what we're being told is to tell schools not to have any underspend at the end of this year from last year's or even from this year's. So please do take up that early deadline. We want to improve the reporting in Cornwall, improve the amount of impact we're having, and we can give some constructive feedback to your reporting. But please don't use your own template. Use one of, or your MAT template. There's a waste of time. MAT's coming up with their own templates. There's some good model templates out there. Just the two of them, use one of those two. Okay, I'm conscious I want you guys to get away. It's been a good day. I've just got 2 more slides to update you on some other things. Any more questions around the premium before I move on to share something else quickly with you? No. Okay, so the other quick thing, Healthy Schools Rating Scheme. There is a national Healthy Schools Rating Scheme. We do want schools to look at this scheme as well. It is linked in. It's something that you can help with your implementation or your intent, implementation and impact with Ofsted. Gives you a nice little report back on areas that you could work on. There's only 4 areas. 2 are related to food, 2 are related to physical activity. So the amount of time spent on physical education each week and participation in active travel, you can achieve a gold, silver or bronze level, and you do it by taking part in the Active Live survey. So that's something we're trying to encourage schools to take part in Cornwall, which we think's got some real benefits. And then obviously the virtual winter games, we touched on that earlier. Still not too late to register for next week. Take part, download off our website and get involved in the winter virtual school games, which would be good. Any questions from anybody else? The bit that's not come up is about use of tech and innovation. We talked quite a lot in the last group around technology and using kind of gamification and competition against others, buying like activity bands for kids to wear to see what they're doing, how far they're traveling each day, get some competition going. That's all great use of the premium and quite innovative, so that's good. Any other questions? Okay, well, my email address is there if anybody wants to get in touch. I hope you've enjoyed today. I hope you've enjoyed the keynotes that we had this morning. And thank you very much. I know everyone's really, really busy. Thank you very much for giving up your time and spending your very important and precious time with us today. And hopefully you found it worthwhile. Thank you and enjoy the weekend.